Consider for the next time out when you're playing doubles, you know, cheering your partner on, or if he misses, saying, forget about it, let's keep going. I didn't hear any verbal communication between the four of you, among the four of you at any time.
Maybe out of town.
Well, yeah, you know, possibly I could be more loud, but, you know, quietly, you know, whenever Jose makes a good shot, I tell him.
Do you think it's very important to know that and to do that when you're playing doubles? I mean, if you're playing singles, you can only talk to yourself. But in doubles, there's another person there who you're supposed to be blending with in order to gain victory. Do you think that's an important consideration for any doubles team in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think,
okay.
You know, you have to cheer on your partner, and as for communication, I don't know that our communication was the best. You know, there was a little confusion sometimes about playing in the middle, I think Jose played an excellent game, but I think he was a little. He's not used to playing the right side, so there, you know, when I served,
that's an excellent point.
I was trying to get him, you know, to hit the ball hard, like when he was on the left side.
Charlie, thanks so very much for your comments. Charlie, of course, as I mentioned before, is a Masters champion. He's been in tournaments, always in the highest echelon of competitive play. He's a wonderful person. He's a great sportsman. He's a great competitor. He's always in fabulous shape. And we welcome this opportunity to have communicated with him, getting his ideas about this match today. Thank you, Charlie Sheldon.
Thanks,
Okay, we're about to get ready for the next match. Earlier, the fellow lying on the floor, Robert Sostre, seems to be giving a message to his opponent that nothing is bothering him and he's in complete control of the situation. His partner, David Sheldon, whose father we just spoke to, he's warming up. Sostre put in so much effort in that first match, his limbs may be a little tight, because if you start and play a tremendously fast-paced match and then you take a timeout, your muscles tend to simmer down, and it takes you about 10 points before you're getting them ready for the next match. So I think it's important for him to get a good warm-up, to unlimit those muscles. Albert, of course, he's on our National One-Ball Committee. He's very instrumental in furthering the game of handball. He put this particular package together, this USHA Indoor Invitational Doubles. He is also many times national doubles champion. He also won the national singles championship. His partner is Golden, a former national singles championship. So you're seeing tremendous talent on the court. There's one fly in the ointment. The fly in the ointment was that in the preliminaries last week, Howie Kadish and Fred-Sylvia happened to have played Albert and Golden in one of those matches. And what happened was, Eddie and Albert thought that the other team wasn't quite up to par. They had assumed a nice long lead, but they failed to take into account one problem. The problem was that Howie Kadish wasn't going to lie down and lose that match. And as Albert and Eddie just kept the ball in play like the tortoise in the hare, trying to just cross over the finish line, by the time they turned their back to see where their opponents were, Kadish and his partner, Fred-Sylvia, crossed the finish line. But that was the qualifying round, so even though Eddie and Albert lost last week, they're here today as a seeded doubles team, and they're playing Robert Sostre and his partner, David Sheldon, who happened to have placed second last week in the outdoor invitational. Let's get to something very basic. I mentioned that Albert Apuzzi is a great singles champion and Golden is a great singles champion. One of the prerequisites for superb doubles play is what Carl and myself and I have spoken about before, the need to communicate. See, when you're playing singles, you're within your own mind. You can formulate your own strategy, you can take in the inputs as the game unfolds, and you make your own decisions. But once you bring two singles aficionados together, two experts in the singles game, all of a sudden something happens. Something called individuality, something called egocentrism. What they're thinking about is their great single skills and how they do it by themselves. What happens is, thinking as human beings independently of each other, one person will tend to take too many shots. The other person will assume it's his shot, and because they're both singles players with great lateral movement, before you know it, they're intruding on each other's turf. Now, the great doubles players of all time, my brother Carl, my brother Oscar, and some even say myself, the great doubles players of all time recognized one thing. What they had to do was sublimate their own individuality for their objective, namely victory. It's the great doubles player who immediately recognizes that one member of the team is the dominant force, and he, being that dominant force, must say to himself, I will become the supporting part of this team. I will not miss, because if I miss, I put more pressure on my dominant partner. If he sees me missing, more pressure is on him to make even more fantastic shots. Why? Because he's thinking as the dominant man that it's his job to win the game. So teamwork is of the essence in this game. And the little corollaries that follow from it is, so we say in proper English, the little corollaries that follow from this premise are that you must know what your opponent is thinking, and more importantly, what your partner is thinking. Keep in mind a pre-game plan, trying to assess the strengths and weaknesses of your opponents, knowing full well if you've had the fortune to play with a brother for so many years in tournaments, sometimes you don't have to say anything. You just know intuitively that all those competitions that you've endured, that something will click. I remember so clearly my brother Oscar not saying a word if I took a particular shot, and believe me, there were very few of those. He would just look at me and I'd immediately know not to do that again. What does it all mean? It means three brothers playing from the age of 5 onwards, being in tournament competition for about 20 years, being together at all times, not having to look for an extra man to play with, growing up together in a social context, and developing physically, emotionally, and mentally, having one spirit between the three of us. When Carl alluded to that Cleveland episode before, he was one man opposed by 30, 40, 100, 300 spectators who are rooting for the other team. That's what this game of doubles is all about. That's what you always have to keep in mind. And that's why Oscar, Carl, and Ruby Obert won 92 national championships in 1-wall, 3-wall, 4-wall, singles and doubles. Whether I was a partner with Oscar or a partner with Carl or Carl with Oscar, it was the ultimate thrill to be an Obert brother and to perform in this great sport of handball. That's why Carl and I talk so much when we're on the air. We're trying to impart some of these ideas so that perhaps some young man, some young woman out there will absorb some of the messages and gain all the fruits and enjoyments of a well-rounded, good life that handball has brought to us. I'm chatting now endlessly, but what I'm doing is killing time as the players continue to warm up. So with that in mind, Matthew Paris is going to ask more of his penetrating questions of my brother Carl Obert.
Have you ever played with a doubles partner where the chemistry was wrong and you couldn't communicate? And how did you deal with that if you did?
Well, many times in a game, things are going wrong, and what you have to do is you have to be willing to submit to a better game plan. I'll give you an idea. I think all sports are like a mathematical equation. Given A could be equal to 2 or 3, B is equal to 4, C is equal to 5, so A plus B plus C equals D, or success. And unless you alter for the happenings of a game, A, my partner doesn't run too fast. B, I'm not a good shooter. And develop a formula to win, you're not going to win. It's nice to say, A, he's got to be a great shooter. B, he's got to be a good runner. D, he's got to have hit the ball hard. But that's not what reality is. It's to take a look at the variables, the assets of your team and its weaknesses, and convert those into a strategy that's a winning strategy. So even though things would go wrong in a game, you can always make it better. If your partner is hot-headed, recognize it as that, try and convert it, not add to the irritation. Sometimes you have to give up your right, like basketball players. You can be a great shooter, but if the other person is hot, you feed him the ball. That's what great pros do. Even though you know you can do just as well. But that's certain ideas, and we try to teach ideas of the best possibilities of winning. And sometimes you have to give up your right in order for the team to win. If he wants to look great, let him look great so he can bring on the win.
Sounds like a successful marriage.
Same thing, it's give and take. But if you really want to win, sometimes the smartest one has to give in. And it doesn't mean the best shot maker is going to win.
Sounds like a vaguely tragic situation.
But it's reality. We'd all like everything to run into exactly what we want. But the real game of what's really happening is what you have to look at. I'm a realist. I look at the game as it is.
Are you implying that handball is an aid to sanity?
Well, again, any sport is an aid to sanity. Some people say, well, there's someone hitting the ball. What a thrill. There's no thrill there. I said, if you want to understand what's really happening, how the ball is hooking to the right, hooking to the left, how they move the opponent, like in boxing, a jab, and then the knockout punch. Handball is the same way. It's moving the opponent, setting up the knockout punch, the kill, or putting the man out. It's only the more you know about the game, the more exciting the game becomes.
If you have your choice, would you like to out-slow an opponent or out-fast?
No, again, I asked someone who was a very hard hitter and very fast, I asked him this question: how do you win a game? He says, well, I hit hard and I run fast. I said, you don't know anything about winning a game. The professional way. It should be your offense versus his offense. Can you win that? Your offense versus his defense. Can you win that? Your defense versus his defense. Can you win that game? Your defense versus his offense. Can you win that game? And whichever combination you think you win, you try to set that game in motion. If it's defense versus defense, you keep volleying, and you make him volley and take away his shot-making ability. If he likes to run, slow him down. Don't make a runner out of him. If he likes to hit, shoot first. He becomes defensive. There's only a few like Oscar, Hershkowitz, maybe Decatur, who will shoot on top of another shot. And that's how you win a game.
Okay, Carl, you were just great as usual. Now we're going to hear more from you as this game goes on, but we're ready to start the next match. This is the other semifinal of our invitational tournament. As I mentioned before, Eddie Golden and Albert Apuzzi, both national champs. Albert with a long string of doubles championships. Eddie with more singles expertise. Let's see if they can combine right now in this match and focus on winning the game. Their opponents, Robert Sostre, is about to serve. He has a lean, mean look in his eye, and his partner, David Sheldon, son of Charlie Sheldon, who you just heard on camera. They're going to do their darndest in order to win this game. I'm not making any pre-match predictions as to who's going to win. It's probably a toss-up right now, but I must give a slight edge to the back team. And having said that, my 90% prediction rate is really forming very well.
How would you attack each side, Rudy?
Okay. Since Eddie Golden and Albert are both singles players, as I said, the first serve should be right up the middle to Albert Apuzzi's left foot. Just about a foot to have a margin of error near the long line. With that in mind, David Sheldon has to move in by the short line, and Sostre must move in, take the ball off the wall, and drop it in front of David Sheldon, which is a legal block in this game, a legal pick. But keep this in mind. The game is only just starting. This is known as the feeling out period. And anything can happen in this period. If Eddie Golden and Albert are tight, they will miss. Did you see the shot Robert just missed? That's one of the factors. He put out a blazing spirit in his first match, then he cooled down, and now the muscles are screaming to try and warm up again. Eddie Golden serving. They should be more conservative at this part of the game, but you always get some renegade who sees a shot, doesn't care about anything, and drives. That person will probably be Robert Sostre.
How old is he?
He's just a very young man. He's 22 years old. He won the Budweiser paddleball tournament about 5 years, and then he switched over to handball. A year ago, he won the 19 and under in handball. So that would make him even less. It wouldn't make him 22, would it? See, you weren't paying attention, Matthew. But he's a young man, that's all we know. But my own opinion was, by switching to handball and then still trying to play paddleball, he did not win this year in the paddleball. Because when you're gripping a paddle, it puts tension on the tendons on the back of your hand. And when you get tension on the tendons on the back of your hand, it affects your handball playing ability. It's 1-0, Eddie Golden serving.
That was a typical
That was a short ball.
shot, too, that retrieve and kill us.
Eddie likes to keep the ball just over the short line to make the opponent push it back. But then later in the game, for some reason, he puts the ball closer to the long line. In doubles with 4 men on the court, it's very difficult to make an ace serve, meaning that you put a ball in such a place that the opponent can't return it. But Eddie is a feisty player. He tries to feel the thing out. The thing they have to remember is if they do take a lead, they must maintain that lead and not let up as they did last week. There's Robert with his freewheeling left-handed swing, which is dangerous when he gets tired. But he's a young man. He doesn't have a lot of tournament handball experience, but hopefully he'll learn. He's a wonderful athlete, a young man in fine condition. He has that attentiveness, that alertness, that look in his eye. He has fine hand control where he doesn't have any loose edges on his shot making. Every shot he hits is right on the button. But here, with the lighting not being so good and the lines on the basketball floor and a little bit of tension because of the fellas they're playing, he may be a little tentative at the beginning. But as he warms up, he gets better and better. My brother Carl will add to this. You see the intensity in Robert Sostre's eyes? Look at that look. I found out only after 2 years that he wears contact lenses. And that's why he's focusing more than anybody on the court. Just in time for Halloween, where you give the girl the big eyes and say, "Permit me to introduce myself." See, Albert was standing perfectly still, so there was no block. Had he moved even slightly, it would have been a hinder ball or a replay. The game is warming up now. See, Eddie Golden on the left side is the shot maker. Albert on the right side is the supporting man at this juncture. But when they switch serves, Albert will then become the dominant force on that side. But trying switching back and forth and get your mental mode into focus is very difficult. That's where they run into trouble. Same error, I think, is being made by Sostre and Charlie Sheldon's son David. I think Sostre should stay on the left side because Robert Sostre is sort of boxed in on the right side, and yet David Sheldon has the ability to play a very good right side. And since Sostre is a freewheeling type of player, he needs that room over there to do his thing. He's boxed in over here.
Beautiful recovery of position.
The only time I would suggest that they do switch sides is if they're running into a problem and Sostre is not performing on the left, then it becomes appropriate to try and switch sides and try something else. But if you have the dominant force in Sostre on this side, who has a fine eye and fine control, you can't lock him up in a corner on the right side, and that's what's happening. But nothing really overwhelming happens. Nobody is yet to take the initiative. But I suggest if Sostre were on the left side, you would see him taking the initiative. Right now, they're just keeping the ball in play. I think David just made a move toward the ball, and happily it went down. I don't think he really intended to lower the ball there. Another factor is most of these fellas during the year play outdoors where the lighting is better, you're playing on cement. Here we have a basketball floor. It's a tinted veneer, got extra lines. The lighting is not really the greatest, but there's one more fundamental factor. When they play outdoors, the cement wall gives a different resilience to the ball when it contacts it. Here, this is made of some sort of a plaster composition. It seems to absorb what the power in the ball has, and it makes the game a little bit slower for the players. If you power the ball outside, there's about a 30% improvement in the amount of force in the ball off the wall, and therefore getting your opponent out of position and even not able to track it down. This is sort of like a neutralizing influence of a wall. Power is not going to be the determining factor. It's going to be placement. Who has the better placement? And I think Robert Sostre has that. That was a long ball. Paul will step in here and give you his thoughts.
These are very canny players, aren't they, Paul? Particularly the older players. They're in position.
They're in position, but I noticed one slight flaw. Albert seems to be playing most of this game with his left hand. That time he hit it with his right. And Robert is moving the ball towards his left hand, saying his strong hand against Albert's weak hand.
He grabbed his right hand right after he made that shot. He has had a clot in his arm, and he may be feeling
Well, again, it's obvious that Robert is taking advantage of working the weak hand of Albert. And also, it seems Albert is not moving in. He's willing to lay back. Again, we have to go back to what the purpose is. The purpose of it is to volley or to angle, is to move the person out of position to take control of front court. And it didn't seem like that's what they were doing. Maybe they were just seeing what's happening, but that's the way to lose the game. The points at the beginning count just as much as the points at the end. 4 points at the beginning is 20% of the game. Whether you get it at the end, it's harder to make. So we have a rule. Every shot has to be worked. And if you can get them at the beginning, percentage eventually turns in your favor.
It seems to be almost a kind of a rhythm that one player sets up of speed where they hit the ball instead of a diversity of speeds and spins.
Well, again, one team may decide that we're going to slow the game down, or one team may decide we're going to increase the game, depending on what they think that they can win. But at this early stage, I don't think that they've found the formula of what to do. Rube said he liked the front Albert's team. I differ with him. I like the back team. One of the reasons is that they don't make bad shots. They keep the ball in play. They're always moving in to try and take that front court position. I think that's the key to winning. Maybe the back team is a little overconfident. Albert's team is a little overconfident, and that's a bad thing to get into. The score right now is 10-6. Again, at any moment, the game can open up. It depends if someone finds the weakness. That was a good shot by Robert, even if it was his left hand. The reason why he was very good, he shot in front of him. Second of all, he shot in the middle, not taking a bad shot, trying to take the corner out. he used his body to pick the opponent off. And usually you hit down the middle, the two aggressive players usually get away with more because they all think the other one is going to get it with their speed.
I would think by now they try to keep it away from you. It's getting
That's
very
correct.
hard.
You made a good observation. That time Robert hit the serve out. He made 3 quick points with the serve down the middle. And that's what happens to most players. They say they want to change something. We have a rule. If it's going good, keep it going. That was a costly error because the other team didn't have to make a shot.
It's odd he wasn't in position for this.
Albert's throwing the ball to the long line to take it off the wall. That time he shot off his right leg, picking off Robert and his partner. Again, he threw another serve to the long line with a little hook to the left.
If you're shooting off your right leg and you're a right-hander, isn't that an arm shot mostly with no body behind it?
No, every shot can get your body into it. See, the real way to be a good shot maker off the wall is to always seem like you're reaching for it, that it's not in your realm. That way you're spreading your body and picking even a wider range. Like in basketball, they shoot off balance.
Yeah.
They practice shooting off balance because it gives an awkward look. And also in shooting the kill, you can make it look awkward, but yet you're unbalanced. It depends on the way you set it up. You know, the creative mind.
The thing that I learned in basketball is that as much as possible, I try to keep the minimal amount of action into the shot because then I can control it better. Is that comparable in handball to keep the minimal action?
Again, it's control. There's an opponent who hits the ball hard. Many times you see an opponent, every ball he hits hard. Actually, he's wasting a great offensive weapon. Because after 2 or 3 points, everyone gets used to the pace of the ball. Mm-hmm. If he was really clever, like basketball players, they run 3/4 speed, and then all of a sudden, like a jet, they're out of there. Right. All the same thing with hitting a ball hard. You hit 3/4 speed, you act like you're hitting it with all your might. And then when you see the opening, you let it go, and it's an easy point. So you only show as much of what you want them to see. So some people say, hit the ball hard. No, you only hit it hard if it's effective. If it's just going to be just a volley shot and they're used to the tempo, it really was just like a simple setup because he's waiting for it. But changing the speeds. And then when you see the opportunity to increase the speed, makes it more effective. Steve Sandler was a good inspiration for using control of his running. He was built quite chunky. It looked like he never could get to the ball. But when it was time to get to the ball, he was always there. He only forced that look. And that's why he was a great champion. He didn't run hard all the time. Because if he ran hard all the time, they wouldn't hit the ball out. Because they know he'd get it. So he used to lull you to sleep. The people would take the shot. He'd be out of nowhere to get it, and he'd win. And that was a key factor in his winning ability. He had great anticipation. The score right now is 15-9. It's 9-15. It was a side out. Remember, the team up, the score is called first. So it's 9-15. That serve was called long. Again, Golden just missed that shot. The reason he missed the shot, he shot it off his chest, and the angle to get to a kill is 80-20 against him. It was a poor shot to take for the kill.